every time I do that, I feel invigorated. I feel that sense of purpose and knowing that we're helping to equip people to go in and do good work with young people.
You're listening to the Blue Skies Leadership Podcast, featuring discussions with international school leaders about the future of education. The podcast embodies the spirit of reciprocity by sharing strategies and change initiatives from leading schools around the world. Here are your hosts, Dan Kerr and Daniel Mendes.
Love your blog post, what books to read for 2025.
Yeah, we published it on Tie Online. And it's a lot of fun. It's actually one of my favorite posts of the year because it's true. I get this birthday gift from Jocelyn, my wife, every year. I can order books and I can reorder more the following year if I actually read the books that I had ordered from that particular calendar year. And I'm happy to say that I did do that. But it's my favorite thing. I comb bookstores when I'm on trips. I go through websites. I look at different organizations, and I try to come up with 10 to 15 books that I think that will be really important for the following year for educators around themes of leadership, creativity, innovation, with an overarching theme of just becoming a better human being for our world. If you want to check it out, it's on Tie Online on the blog, and I think you'll find at least a couple that might resonate with you. I'm very excited about this year's list. You're a voracious reader as well. So if you were to add something to that list that isn't there, do you have a book that you've read recently that you might want to recommend?
I'm doing all this executive coaching, and I found one called The Advice Trap. And I think every leader should take a look at this book. It's a very short one. It's like a little tiny manual, keeps it very succinct. We should try to tame our advice monster. So as leaders, listen a lot more. And it helps you to understand what type of advice monster you have. You either control a situation, you try to save a situation. And I'm not going to tell you the whole book because it's a really great read. The Advice Trap.
I love that. I'm actually going to add that to my list. And full transparency, I stole it off your desk the other day. So it's going to be my Tet vacation read on the beach while I'm not looking for sea glass. So
I'll just charge you overdue library fees. That's all.
Thanks for that.
All right. We're thrilled to have Brooke Fezler, co-founder and director of the International School Counselors Association, ISCA, join us today.
Yeah, Brooke brings a wealth of experience, having worked as a school counselor in 5 different countries worldwide. Her unique background, blending expertise in counseling with a strong foundation in marketing and advertising, gives her a unique perspective on effectively implementing and promoting comprehensive school counseling programs.
Brooke, along with Cheryl Brown, is the co-developer and co-researcher of the groundbreaking international model for school counseling programs, which is a testament to her dedication to advancing the field of school counseling internationally.
Well, Brooke, welcome to the show. I have to tell you, I've been giddy all week thinking about getting you here on this episode. Listeners, for those of you who don't know, Brooke and I have known each other for 20 years since our time in Jakarta together. Daniel and I both are really inspired by the work that you've done with ISCA and the journey that you've been on. And I just want to welcome you to the show and thank you for all that you've done to the international school world. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so honored.
That's a really long history, 20 years of knowing someone.
And through a lot of iterations, through young kids and new kids and families and different countries around the world. So to connect here with someone who I really respect and admire, Brooke, professionally, but to have as a friend on the show is pretty cool for me. Welcome.
We ask every one of our guests the same question. What does a blue skies vision of school look like for you? Where's the world of international schools heading?
That's a good question. I've been thinking about that a lot, and especially as I've been listening to your podcast and the different guests that you've had on. At ISCA, we've been doing this work for a long time and really advocating for students' well-being and their mental health. And what I'm excited to see where schools are going is in understanding and prioritizing SEL and mental health. Our vision really is that SEL and mental health is prioritized, that it is intentional, and that it is cohesive. To break that down, prioritizing mental health and SEL, what does that look like in a school in terms of the schedule, in terms of training for teachers, making sure everyone in the building is trained to be able to support our young people? when they come to them or they're showing signs of struggle or difficulty. What standards are we using? Are we using standards? How are we designing the school day to account for mental health and SEL? I've been at many schools where it's been a struggle to find time to do advisory or to build in assemblies or to even take trips and do field trips, week without walls and all those different things. And that really has a big impact. In terms of intentionality, making sure that SEL is as much of a priority as the other subject areas. Yeah. Right? That we are using standards. We have a learning progression. We know where we're going and we know where we're taking students on this journey, just like we do with math and just like we do with English. That's really our vision, is wanting to make sure that no matter where students are in the world and how many countries and schools they change, that consistent care with SEL and mental health, it is consistent and it is cohesive across schools. And that really comes in our mind through standards for learners. And then also for us specifically at ISCA, looking at our counseling programs and making sure those are cohesive and have the framework so that care that a family receives from one school to the next is consistent. Of course, it is not going to be the exact same, but our framework and what we're doing is similar. We're all singing from the same song sheet. In terms of cohesion, I think one of the things that means for us is really a K-12 plan. Oftentimes we see there is great work being done in different divisions, but we're not working together cohesively, working off of the same standards or the same documents. Great work can be happening in elementary with SEL, but then it can start to break down sometimes in middle and high school, depending on the people, the structures, priorities. And so just having an alignment K-12 and making sure that that's cohesive is really what we're continuing to advocate for and hope for and build in our schools.
That's really validating for us to hear you say that. We're very blessed at this school, SSIS, to have amazing counseling teams across the divisions who work very closely together. And as part of our strategic plan, we are really prioritizing the social and emotional health and well-being cell of our students and looking at structures through our advisory programs or our individual classes and our scheduling to make that something that is a priority moving forward. So we're here with you.
Really appreciated, Brooke, your blue skies holistic view of SEL in a school. I can tell at a schedule of a school and say what they prioritize. A lot of times it's usually facilities that drive the schedule, and being intentional, like you're just saying, about focusing on the SEL, focusing on mental health. What does that look like in a schedule? What does that look like in a curriculum? What does that look like in the classroom is inspiring. And we really appreciate it. And we have the right guest for today's show.
With that in mind, and with your organization, can you talk to us a little bit about ISCA, maybe highlight some of the things, some innovations or some blue sky initiatives that are being talked about either at your organization or globally that you see? Yeah,
definitely. We have been innovating a lot and really trying to meet the needs and fill the gaps that we see have been out there, whether it's in counselor education or general upskilling of educators, providing roadmaps with standards in our learning progressions. In May of 2024, we launched our certificate program.
Okay.
Someone can become an ISCA certified counselor, or they can earn specializations. And one of the things that we've seen over the years is there will be individuals who are serving as a counselor in a school who might not have been trained as a counselor or have been trained, even have their master's, but part of those programs aren't fully talking about the role of the school counselor. It might not be as comprehensive, a master's program or a certification. What we did was really analyze a lot of the programs out there and make sure that our certification is digging into the international model, which is our profession's manual
right.
for the why, what, and how of a school counseling program. and building all of the courses around that. So someone who is a veteran counselor, but someone who is new to the field or interested in coming to the field, or maybe working in a country where the role of a school counselor doesn't exist, to make sure that they're getting that training. I was down in Tanzania last year, and it was so clear to me, and we've seen this a lot in Africa, certainly in that region, where there's a lot of individuals who are in the role of a counselor and are looking for the training to help them in a school, but it's a very unique position in a school. The program that we designed is really fit for a lot of different individuals and a lot of different needs. I've also worked with people who have a background in well-being, but not in the role of a counselor. They might be the person that someone comes to, but in terms of all the other responsibilities that we have in a school, they might not have that training or that awareness. And so we've built a program. It's 16 courses that are really comprehensive to upskill and train someone who is in that role.
Wow.
And then in addition to that, we have specializations. So we have 3 specializations. One is in solution-focused brief therapy. One is in DEIJ. And then we just launched our mental health specialization. And so again, we're looking at those topics and saying, what are the courses? What are the things that people who want to improve mental health in the school need to know and understand to be well equipped to support their community? That particular specialization has 10 courses in it. We're really excited because, one, we work really hard to develop the courses and the facilitators who deliver strong programming and resources for people who participate. And it really is serving a need. Within a few hours of that mental health specialization being announced, we had so many enrollments. And even when we first announced the specialization in May, and so we saw how quickly that this was meeting a need that was out there. We've also seen a lot of administrators actually seek out those courses, especially people who are in the role of like a dean.
Yeah.
Because I believe they find that the issues that they're confronting cross that line between kind of counselor and administrator. And our approach is really grounded in a holistic approach. That's one of the things that we've innovated this year.
That's fantastic. My wife's a high school principal here at SSIS. And one of the things that she's worked for over the last 5 years is transitioning the college counseling positions into more of a holistic counseling program. And I could see how someone could benefit from being part of your program, upskilling in certain parts. You're hitting on a lot of different needs out there around the world, because you're right. Depending on the region, depending on your situation, you have people that have never been trained. And I really appreciate that you're addressing that. 16 courses, that's a lot. So that's amazing that you've created that body of work while working as a counselor. So I really appreciate that.
It's interesting to me in my job as a middle school principal, as administrator, the amount of times that I look to my wife, Jocelyn, who happens to be a middle school counselor, for advice or recommendations, and look at the situation through a counseling lens and that social emotional lens. And for an administrator to go through these courses would be so important. Not everyone is blessed with a wife who does this work. I think it's right, not only for teachers, but for counselors, but for administrators as well. I mean, this is going to be very, very valuable.
Speaking of the college piece, that's something that comes up a lot. We're about a comprehensive model. An upcoming specialization we have is in college counseling. So someone who wants to be a comprehensive college counselor under the ISCA model and understanding that approach is our next specialization that will be coming out this year.
That's cool. We run that model here as comprehensive counseling. So, but I know that this is the first school that I've been to that has that model. So that's another wonderful offering. You guys have been busy.
We've been busy. We've been busy. Say the other kind of innovative thing that came out this year was our learning progression.
Yeah. Talk about that a little bit.
We've had student standards around SEL since 2011, and they were revised in 2022. And they're really the most comprehensive SEL standards out there because they're not just competencies, they're indicators. They drill down under 4 domains: social emotional, global perspective and identity development, academic, and career. And within each of those domains, we really break down what it is we want students to know and be able to do. The learning progression, it breaks that down even further and says, what does that look like in grade 2? What does that look like in grade 5? When we talk about self-awareness, right, it's a big, very general kind of topic. That's not enough for us to design great learning experiences or to understand what kind of outcome we would be looking for with a student who we want to have to develop self-awareness. Mm-hmm. So our standards break that down, but the learning progression breaks it out just like it does in English. We have to have a learning progression to know where we're going and where we're taking our learners. And that's the same for our SEL standards. So we launched that in October. We've had such a positive response from so many people. One of the things we kept hearing was, oh my gosh, you did it. We were asked to do this at our school. It is so much work. And now we don't have to do it. You've given us the roadmap. That is really exciting. And we're building some more tools and training around that. It really has met a need and filled a gap that was out there that has been asked of us for years. Okay, well, that's great. But what does that look like in pre-K? Wait, do we do career in elementary school? At what stage are we introducing these skills and what does that look like? So we really defined those learning outcomes for SEL. That's been really exciting.
Well, to your point earlier in the show about aligning the divisions, right, and aligning a school around particular standards, that's exactly what you're talking about here. And that doesn't happen without this learning progression, right? So you can see it from each developmental stage from K3 through 12, I would imagine.
Yep.
Congratulations. Congratulations.
So could you elaborate a little bit more about how ISCA has responded to the mental health needs of students? I know you touched a little bit about self-awareness. If you can elaborate a little bit more about that.
One of the things I think we really pride ourselves on is being proactive in the training and the services and the support that we offer to members, but just to the larger community. The other is really listening to understand what people need in order to support young people. In terms of mental health, obviously we saw a huge focus, attention, and a shift in mental health during COVID. And it was during that time we really ramped up our offerings in terms of webinars and resources and courses to make sure that people who are sitting in front of students know and are able and feel empowered to how to support them. We call upon experts in the field to offer webinars and trainings to respond to those needs. Because there's nothing worse than being sitting down with a student or a family and feeling like, I don't know how to handle this. Where do I go next? When you're in the role of a counselor or an administrator, you're constantly fielding new situations and something walks into your office that you might not have experienced before or know how to handle, or you feel a bit out of your depth. We have really increased the number of offerings that we have. So we have courses on responding to anxiety in young people, mental health in international schools. One of the offerings that we have is called Youth Mental Health First Aid. And that's one of the courses that really equips everybody in the school to know and feel comfortable with how to respond to a young person who they have concerns about or who has self-identified as having difficulty. I think we've responded with our trainings and our offerings. Our conferences, both virtual and in person, are always having that as a focus. In fact, this year, the theme for our conferences has been unity and diversity, SEL standards, mental health, and inclusive practices, unifying those. Everything we do is making sure that the mental health professional in the building has the skills, but then also those who are educators, general classroom teachers, school administrators also have access to either articles, blogs, webinars, courses.
Yeah, I'm glad that we've talked about this because maybe some of our listeners would think that ISCA was an organization strictly for school counselors.
Yeah.
What we hear you talking about now is that that's all of these events and these tools are open for anybody. And we're talking about non-counselors, educators, administrators, anybody who's really has a vested interest in doing well by young people.
Right.
And with that in mind, I know that you have an exciting conference coming up in Manila in, I want to say March.
Mm-hmm.
Can you talk a little bit about that particular conference? And I know that that's open for everybody. Like that's anybody, administrators, non-counselors, counselors, teachers, anybody is open to register for that.
ISCA is a membership organization, but we're not exclusive, right?
Okay.
So all of our events, webinars, et cetera, are open to members and non-members. There's a different price point. So all the webinars are free and there's a lot of discounts on our events, but everything's open for people to join. The conference that we have coming up, we're really excited about because we've got Dr. Doug Walker, who is just phenomenal. And he's talking about mental health in the face of global crisis. He's also talking about and doing deep dives on policy and advocacy for mental health in schools. Then we have Christine Mazzoni. She's our ISCA Learning and Development Coordinator and also works as a consultant in SEL and leadership. And she's talking about the curriculum and the standards, right?
Okay.
Teaching people and not curriculum. And then really going into decoding SEL, getting into the learning progression, et cetera. Beyond that, we've got pre-conferences around mental health, around suicide and self-injury with Dr. Poland. We've got Therese Schutz doing a pre-conference on medication, psychopharmacology intervention, neurodiversity, trauma-informed practices. So we really try to make sure that all of our conferences, there's a lot of stuff that we manage in a school with our young people in our community, trying to make sure that our conferences are going deep into the topics and the areas that are really specific for our profession. We definitely have seen an increase in participation from school psychologists attending our conferences. Like I mentioned, deans of students, some administrators, because this touches their work too. And I think our approach to it and the quality of workshops that we have really seems to resonate with them. It's going to be a great conference. There's going to be some heavy stuff. Dr. Doug Walker is going to be talking about mental health in the face of a global crisis. And we know all the things that are happening around the world right now. And it's heavy. There's power in coming together to really know how to best approach those things. And that's what we want to do, is make sure everyone is feeling like they have a place in the community to talk about and discuss these issues and feel confident going into their communities to support.
Yeah, and leaving with a sense of hope, I would imagine. You'll be happy to know, just as a side note, that you're going to get 5 of our counselors who are going to be flying there, and they're very excited. They're already talking about it.
Brooke, I hope our audience is resonating with what you're saying. You bring such passion. I can tell by what you're doing. That's a lot of work that you've done, both building the standards and all the conferences and bringing all these people together to help our community. Tell us a little bit more about the journey of ISCA. I'd love to hear what keeps you driving after all these years. It must be a phenomenal story.
It is. It's definitely a passion story. My partner, Cheryl Brown, and we worked together in Jakarta, and we had a big counseling team there, and we were doing our accreditation and working as a counseling team. We were looking at the standards that we were trying to align to. Wait a minute, there's something in here for counselors. The line items for counselors were around having a fireproof filing cabinet and something else pretty arbitrary. Cheryl has done a lot of work in accreditation. I was coming pretty fresh from my training in the US under the ISCA model. And we were also working with a really diverse team in Jakarta, people coming from and had training from all different parts of the world. But there was nothing uniting us as a group. There was not one kind of foundational document. We all had different ideas of what a counseling program should be or look like. And so that's when the idea was born of maybe we need an international model, like an international guide for this. It was in that process that we had this idea. We went to our amazing admin at the time. So Tim Stewart was one of our big advocates who, is now at the State Department, and Jeff Smith and David Kramer. And we're like, hey guys, we got this idea. I'm going to go and I'm going to meet the heads of ISCA and I'm going to get permission for us to create an international model. And they're like, okay, that sounds, look. And so I did. And we met Judy Bowers, who is the co-author of the ISCA model and the head of ISCA. And I said, we want to create an international model. And they said, you have our blessing. So we came back to GIS and we said, okay, we're ready. We've got the blessing. We want to do our own training here. At the time they were like, this is definitely meeting a need. Mona Stewart helped us write a grant that we wrote to the State Department. We got a U.S. State Department grant under ISCA at the time. And Paul Poore was a big supporter of that because he was also a counselor. And they all saw the need that in our vision for what we wanted to create, which is a framework that unifies our profession. We got that grant in 2009. We traveled to different conferences with the American school model and brought it to people and said, okay, what is it about this model that is too American? Because that was one of the pieces of feedback we got from our team was we said, well, why don't we use this ISCA model? And they said, well, that's too American.
No, that's good.
And we're like, oh, okay. Yeah. What do you mean too American? So we wanted to unpick that, right? We wanted to understand it. We didn't want to have any barriers to anybody being able to access the model so that we could do good work together.
Mm-hmm.
Like, no, I use the American model. Oh, I use the Irish model. No, I use the Australian. We got the grant 2011. We released the first model. We did our first training in Paris in 2012. And in 2014, we launched ISCA because we realized it goes beyond the model. We really need to be building this community and an association where we continue to have professional development and courses. It had to go beyond the book. And so that's when we created ISCA, which is now in its 10th year. And really, Cheryl and I don't know what keeps our passion going. She and I, it's the longest relationship both of us have ever been in. It is,
right.
It is a marriage. It is our first child, ISCA. It's something about our continued passion for providing this kind of support for young people, really believing in the power of the training for other people. We see how it benefits them. And so later today, I'm doing a training with counselors. Every time I do that, I feel invigorated. I feel that sense of purpose and knowing that we're helping to equip people to go in and do good work with young people. It keeps us going. Even when we're tired and feeling broken, we're so passionate about it. Yeah, here we are.
That's inspiring.
It's awesome. So you've mentioned Cheryl Brown a couple of times.
Right.
She's the other half of the dynamic duo. What does she bring to that partnership that you value?
Oh, that's a good question. Cheryl brings a lot of vision, a lot of creativity. She has a very rich background in a lot of different areas with HR, accreditation, finance. She brings a lot of structure and systems to what we do. She is masterful at working with people and working with administrators. Yeah, we really have such a dynamic, a different set of strengths and so many things that complement each other. To be in a relationship for this long, doing this kind of work that really both inspiring and very heavy, and to have continued to do it and to be in such a great place together as a team has really meant that we've needed a lot of flexibility, a lot of understanding, a lot of patience and trying things out, a lot of trust between each other, her trusting my vision, me trusting her vision. And she's someone that's a lifelong learner. She is constantly seeking and doing research, and I really benefit and rely on that. And there's so many times we'll all be in a meeting and Cheryl's not there, and I'm like, oh, I really wish she was here right now. Like, what would she say? Because she really elevates and has a perspective on things that I don't see everything in the same way.
You bring me back to the Jakarta days. I mean, my prevailing takeaway from Cheryl was just what a beautiful human being she is.
Yeah.
And that's my memory about her. I haven't seen her in a while, but I remember our early days. And that's another thing that connects you both together is that you're just beautiful people. So it's a great partnership, lasted a long time.
Yeah. And you know what I would say too, like we have fun, but we have a lot of jokes. We really laugh hard. There's like a weird language between us that nobody else understands, you know? We do. We have fun. Like if I have to go to something without her, I'm like, oh, it's not going to be as fun.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We want to find out, the conference is coming up, but now that you're come away from schools and you're doing this as a full-time gig, what does 2025 look like? The second semester, are you all over the world? Are you going to be staying in Spain a little bit and doing work from there? But what does 2025 look like?
It's going to be busy. I think it might be one of our best years. We will be at AAIE.
Oh, I'll see you there. I'll see you there.
Yeah. Oh, good. Okay, good. All right. Well, we're going to get together and have a coffee.
Fun.
We will be doing a pre-conference there with SENIA International and then leading another workshop and exhibiting. So we're really excited about that. We have our conference in March. We'll be doing another on-site training here in Europe for our model training. Cheryl will be in Manila doing a training as well on the model. And then in the summertime, we constantly have courses, but in the fall, we'll be back on the road. We have some partnerships and some other on-site training that we'll be doing, as well as attending some of the leadership conferences, really making sure and doing our work to help leaders understand the value of the progression. Because a lot of the counselors understand it. And I think that when they bring it to their school leadership, where you can really impact that change and understand it, we really want to try to help them understand these tools. We'll be on the road quite a lot in the fall.
Yeah, a lot of the work that counselors do is behind the scenes and you don't necessarily see it all the time. They are unsung heroes of our schools for sure. What's the best way to contact you?
You can find us on LinkedIn and Facebook and Instagram. ISCA has an account. Cheryl's account is also very active on LinkedIn. And then through our website, which is iscainfo.com, is where you can find all information about our events and resources, blogs, articles, membership, etc. And then you can always reach out to us. Our emails are on the website, and that's the best way to reach us. You can contact me directly at bfezler@iscainfo.com. We'll be on the road. And so whether it's in DC or in Manila, we'll have an in-person event here in Spain. And in the fall, hopefully you can connect with us in person sometime soon too.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love it.
Well, this has been a gift of a conversation for the two of us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Daniel and myself. And like I said at the start of the show, we were giddy all week to see how this was going to play out, and it didn't disappoint. We're super excited to have you on the show. And from the two of us, we want to say congratulations. You've taken something that was a real need of international schools not that long ago, and you've turned it into this robust, comprehensive progression for schools that really has changed the landscape of international school education over the last decade. And that's an incredible accomplishment. And we want to, on behalf of the international school world, we want to say thank you to you and keep on going.
Yes, keep it going. Another 10 years, 20 years.
That's right.
Absolutely.
You got it.
Well, thank you for taking the time, Brooke. It's been our pleasure.
Oh, it's my honor. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Blue Skies Leadership Podcast. Do you know a specific leader who would be a great guest? Fill out all the details at blueskiesleadership.com.